Back, Jim Manuel and Joseph Clark. In part 1, we discussed how to maximize your client's retirement, covering 401ks, IRAs, and Roth conversions. Tonight is part 2. In 2024, harvest your IRA for your tax-free legacy.
Well, I tell you what, Heather, you are a peach, because I couldn't do any of that stuff. And Jim just came in on the seat of his pants, just got in here.
You never gave me the link.
We got bad weather in Ohio, so I may be off of here in a couple of minutes. But if I am, Heather will take over, because Joe, you're in Colorado, and Jimmy, where you at?
California.
So unless you have the same weather I'm having, that may be the only issue. And so Jim fell off, but Heather will get him back on there. A couple housekeeping things. Joe and Jim were on a couple of weeks ago. We played the replay this week, Joe, for people to watch, so they knew, kind of catch up to where we were at tonight. And I know you and Jim have got some new slides and some new ideas about, the harvesting of the 401k and the Roth conversions and all that good stuff. Next week, Joe, I know you're excited. We have one of the most powerful ladies in the game, Kelly Roach. She's a big-time corporate coach. We're going to be playing a lot of her stuff the rest through the week. I know you're excited to see what she can do for us, and she's going to be a great addition to what we're trying to do with our masterminds and all of that stuff. But a big announcement, me and Joe are going to start doing with Jim podcast on this particular subject and some other subjects. Jim, you may not have known that, but me and Joe talked about that today, and we're going to talk about that more after the show. But I'm excited about that, because like when we did a couple weeks ago, we did the IUL versus the whole life. I was surprised at how much traction that got. A lot of people, don't know the difference, and they just sell one or the other. And we got a lot of people that want us to talk more about that as well. Got a lot of people wanting to talk to you guys. So I'm gonna step out. I'll come back and forth and get the mojo going when we need it. And you guys get all the knowledge going. Joe, you're a little bright in the background, just letting you know. But that could be the angel that's around you. I don't know. But Jimmy, thanks for coming back. Joe, I appreciate it. Have at it, fellas.
Thanks, partner.
I guess I could have a halo on my head here, and I'll pass it.
Wear a cowboy hat. It look better.
There you go. Yeah, I'll pass it over to Jim. And Jim, Bill, thank you for putting us on the show today. We're definitely excited about just providing the greatest of education out there to help our advisors, and not just the education, but the sales ideas that make economic sense for the type of prospects that we're working with. Typically, most occasions, we're dealing with folks that have at least 500,000 to up to over $1 million in their IRA accounts. And you think about like what you run into with those type of folks, and the majority of the time, they already have a financial advisor. And that being said, their mind is stuck on accumulation. That just means that their current advisor is doing a lot of investment planning and not strategically figuring out, what their real true needs are. When we get digging further, and the interesting thing now is a lot of what we do in the forefront of our marketing and our sales process is done virtually. Okay, majority of my advisors, they still have their brick and mortar that they work out of, but they also they do work out of their home on some occasions, or even some of them even full time. But I don't want to make this discussion today just about that. Our objective today.
That's important, because in a couple more weeks, we're going to be talking about doing digital business cards, with your partner, Al Casado and those guys. And that's
absolutely.
So that's going to fit right into what you're talking about. It's not the topic tonight. I get it, but I know Jim knows what I'm talking about. It's having everything professional, because we're changing the way that the landscape is. Yes,
Liam, you definitely is right.
I've already got mine prepared and put on my resume so you can read it. And then I've got the digital button. They just hit it, and it's 1:30 long, done by a professional broadcaster. And it says, and pop, here's Jim Manuel. Here's what he does. That's why he's better than sliced bread and bag of potato chips. And he's your man.
Yeah, there's a whole part of it. Even the backdrops and everything are going to be different. People are going to see a lot of changes. I saw a couple of ones the other day, but again, that's not what we're here tonight for. But I wanted to tie that. I wanted to tie that in, Joe, because it's going to fit with our continued education for the people that are watching us out here tonight.
Now, is this tonight only for agents, or will there be clients on it?
Well, tonight we put our stuff out to both. There'll be clients. I got two different groups. One's the American Retirement Coach, which is me, and I put that out. The call goes out there. They get that. So what you guys do can go both ways, because a lot of people that watch on the other show are clients. But even Joe and me talked to a couple agents just by the last time that had some clients for us to start talking to. So I think it works. I think you're going to find prospects in both, and I think we can help both sides. So however you want to talk tonight, Jim, that's on you. That's on you.
Well, I want to interject just a couple things on my side, where I was mentioning about the pattern that with
Jimmy's
some of the
muted.
cases that were.
Okay, now you couldn't hear me cough, could you?
Oh, no problem. So the patterns are in the sales process is when we're identifying what's important to our client. I mean, it's beyond just the best managed portfolio to keep them from losing money and getting the best of returns without the risk. We get that, they get that. And what we find online, like if you get into talking about safety, right away, a lot of these folks, they start thinking in their mind, is he going to tell me to buy an annuity from him? And Jimmy and I have this saying about it. It's like, if we get too open too soon with that, then it's like, oh, the client, they're getting annuity breath. So, not to belittle the annuity advisor, because we sell annuities on most occasions, but we really try to dig in further to find out what's important, and that's like moving forward on their for their future. And what we're finding is this is just beyond just how to create cash flow or have the best portfolio management in retirement. We're starting to find that folks want to work within their what we call the legacy planning. They want to leave behind a set amount of retirement assets to their beneficiaries. It could be grandkids, it'd be the kids, and what the challenge is when you got IRA accounts is that there's going to be a reckoning day where they have to take the RMD distribution. So if you're dealing with folks that have at least $1 million of assets in their IRAs, that more than likely that's going to end up increasing to a much greater amount than it is today, just the way things have been a bit bullish in the market, which of course Jim's going to kind of give us an update, not just the state of the economy, but what took place today in the economy and also in the market, and then how that plays a role, and making that.
You're touching on something a lot of people don't know. There's no longer passing this on to 3 generations. Those days are gone.
That's correct. That's correct.
So that's something you may want to touch on as well, because I think even the advisors sometimes don't even know because things change so fast, Jim. And I think people don't, because they're not, maybe watching shows like this. And that's why people always ask me, why do you do this for free? And it's like, you don't understand. There's not enough education being done, number one. Number two, we get plenty of rewards by helping people and doing things. It doesn't matter. It all comes back to us if you do the right thing. Right, Jimmy?
Absolutely. And you know what? The amount of money that's going to be transferred from the boomers to the next generation is going to be awe-inspiring. And if we don't learn how to keep that money, it's going to flow through our fingers to the other advisors.
So, and that just kind of sets the stage for our discussion today. Jim, I'm going to hand it over to you so you could get into, what we talked about earlier, referencing to the state of the economy, and then also in the area of what, with the loss, the major drop that took place in the market, and then how that plays a role with the Magnificent Seven that you always discuss, when we're talking to our clients. So this will be, some golden nuggets for whoever's on our live meeting here today. So
sounds
take it over
to me. Liam, thanks for having us on, buddy.
And if we could get the slideshow up, that would be great. If you could go back one, please go back one. There you go. The first one that you just put up.
It was a picture of a real nice looking guy. That was Joe's brother, not Joe.
Yeah, it had to be
Here we go.
I think it's a cousin, Jimmy, a cousin.
Okay.
There you go. Jimmy, here you go, Jimmy.
Can I start? Tell me when I can start.
You could start. Go right ahead.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for attending our workshop today. You'll find it invigorating and informational, but it's going to help put a client in your pocket and money in their pocket and a just reward in your pocket. This is a new report that just came out from the second largest money manager in the world. This is from Vanguard. Everybody knows Vanguard. Every time we get funds from one place, we got to get the money transferred from Vanguard. Vanguard manages $8.3 trillion in assets. They have over 16,000 employees. They've got hundreds and hundreds of PhDs in economics and financial planning on staff. So they're very good at what they do. So they just brought this out just in January of this year. And it's their economic and market outlook for 2024. Can you advance that one, Joe, if it's there? Okay, here we go. Below trend earnings and growth could suppress returns. So right now, we've got a $34 trillion deficit. Our debt service is growing at about $1 to $2 trillion a year. Just today, because I watch these things religiously, the 10-year government bond went up to 4.36%. That was a big upswing. And when that happens, the market hates that. I was always remember when I became a stockbroker with Payne Weber a long time ago, and my branch manager would come around and he says, remember this, when rates are high, stocks will die. When rates are low, stocks will grow. Well, if we look at this right here and we go down to the fine print, let's see.
Joe, you might have to jump in. We lost the audio.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm telling him that he got muted.
Jimmy, we lost your audio. You got to go back.
Do we have it now?
Yep.
Yes, we have you, sir.
Put your arms on the computer, Jim.
Yep, I won't. Hey, this is the second page of the Vanguard report. And they put this out for the next 10 years. I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but Vanguard manages $8.3 trillion of money, second in size only to BlackRock. Those two are the largest and the biggest in the world. So Vanguard put out their 10-year report going forward. They have 16,000 employees. They've got hundreds and hundreds of PhDs in economics and retirement planning facts. They're real good at what they do. And they said that for the next 10 years, you could only count on what they will return is 5.2% to their investors for the next decade. You won't be able to retire in a good fashion earning 5.2% on your asset base. So for most people out there, for the fixed agents, this is our time in the sunshine. We're going to be coming into an environment where we have a $34 trillion debt service. To cover that is about $1 to $2 trillion a year. It's going to keep growing, but something's going to happen in 1 year and 9 months. And that's the end of the Trump Tax and Job Act, which was put into place in 2017 and will expire in December 31st, 2025. Now, I don't know if Trump's going to win or if Biden's going to win, or maybe even Kennedy might pull up a win. I don't know, but I do know this, that we have 50 states in this nation. Each state has 2 senators. So that makes a total in the Senate of 100 senators. We would have to get 60 senators to vote to keep the Trump Tax and Job Act bill in there, and we can't get them to agree on a budget. That's never going to happen. So change in taxes is going to happen. Taxes are going to go up dramatically. You've got to start sounding like Paul Revere. Tell your clients, we've got a couple of years almost left to put things right and to make some massive changes. And so right now, one of the biggest money managers in the world says we can only project from all of our PhDs that we're going to return to the investor client about 5.2%. And as I stated today, the 10-year government bond went up to 4.36%. That caused the market to blow up. The market was down over 450 points today. The NASDAQ was down over 230 points today. That's because the 10-year government bond went up to 4.36%. Vanguard knows this is happening. I know it's happening. Can you go to the next slide, Joe?
They don't have the next slide.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's all. You'll get the gist of this. I'll say this. If you want a copy of this 4-page report, Liam, would it be all right to offer it if they want to?
Just have them put in #report and we'll get it to you.
Okay, sounds good. Joe, will you take care of getting that done?
Not a problem.
Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, keeping it simple, money manager. I'm an in the field producers like you guys out there listening mostly to this. I get up in the morning, put my pants on just like you do, one leg at a time, and I go out and I try to find people that I can help. And I'm armed with a double barrel shotgun. One barrel is loaded with knowledge and the other barrel with performance. And I'm trying to find clients that I can help every day have a better and a safer retirement. And here's what we do. We keep it simple. Oftentimes we work digitally and some more and more digitally. And I come up with something called the 1-page financial plan. It's real simplistic, but it works like a charm. It lets the clients know what's important to them, and you know what the client sees as being important to them. And we come up with a nice 1-page management, not a 40-page gorilla that nobody ever reads. And these things do work. So we have concepts that really work. These 4 buckets right here, if you look at spend, save, and protect, and accumulation, I call Joe the blue collar engineer of our team. And Joe does this majestically. And Joe, I'd like you to talk a little bit about this later. The main thing, what is your stock market pain tolerance? That has to be identified. When I look at portfolios that I'm trying to earn the right to be the broker of choice from the other broker, I ask them, and I'll look at their portfolio, and I call it a stress test. And I do this, and I'll go back to the client, and I'll say, I see your current broker has you positioned to only do well when the stock market does well. But we know that the stock market doesn't always do well. And when you signed up with him to manage your money, did he say you were aggressive, or did you say or conservative or moderate? And your portfolio looks like you're all in and all aggressive. That can cause tremendous losses when we have stock market downturns. So there's ways to fix that. We need to look at a plethora of ideas that will give them a reserve that will have, we're going to have 2 things. When the markets are great, we can take money out of the market. Absolutely not a problem. But when the market's bad, we don't want to take money out of the market. That's going to be dollar cost ravaging. It kills your portfolio. That causes sequence of events losses. We take it out of our vault account when the market's bad, and we take it out of there, and you can't lose money, and you keep your income. Then when the market comes back good, you go back in the market, because we seldom get every penny in just fixed annuities, and seldom we don't want to have all the money in the market. And it's generally across the United States, you're going to find people with both things. We have to know the best 2 ways to work those. And right now, we have a vault account, we call them, that is a it's a volatility buffer. In bad volatility would go to the safety of the vault account. And when everything's roaring like it did in 2023, we can take it out of the market. The markets are good. Joe mentioned the Magnificent Seven. That shows the danger in the market. Right now, there are 7 companies out of the S&P 500 that are responsible for 75% of the gain on the S&P. But if you have an S&P index, you get to reap the benefits of getting that plus the other 25% that the other 493 stocks presented, because you're in the index. And Joe, I'd like you to go over that and how that can be a
Well,
safe.
and Joe, before you start, let me jump on the bandwagon real quick. What I like to say is you either want 2 problems or 3 problems, right? And the trifecta, everybody's going to get taxed when they get into their IRA. Everybody has to take it at a certain time. But what doesn't have to happen, and you hit it on the head, Jim, you don't have to take a loss if you have it in the right design. Yes?
Absolutely.
And so I call that the trifecta. And I tell people, if your retirement's in the trifecta, you might want to be listening up to what Joe's getting around to tell you.
Yeah. Thank you for interjecting that, Liam, because it couldn't have been more eloquently, but yet simplistically stated. We want everybody to understand these concepts. So we're a strong believer in having a synthetic pension check, something that is most people don't retire with a pension. We've got to develop one. And insurance companies are the only people that can develop these. Stocks can't do that. Bonds can't do that. ETFs can't do that. Mutual fund can't do that, because only insurance companies can manufacture mortality credits. So everybody out there, study up a little bit and learn what we do best. And we are the only people. You can ask 50 different stockbrokers, what's the best way to retire? And you'll get 50 different answers. But there aren't 50 best ways to retire. There's one way based on academics, math, and science. And that's to create a synthetic pension plan for yourself in retirement and take that other money that you want to keep in the market. That's what you take a trip to Europe for every 2 years. That's what you have all your fun with. But you got to have balance between them and know how to play one against the other to achieve the best results.
And Jimmy, here's the question they will never answer, right?
Yeah.
Where is your money, Mr. Stockbroker? I guarantee it's not where he's putting your money. I guarantee it.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, Liam. I've got a client. He's a really good guy. We have a good relationship. He's got about 900,000, and he's got it in the Vanguard funds with his broker. And I said, how long have you had that money in there? He said, about 3.5 years. And how much to start with? About 900,000. He said, I finally just went over 900,000. I said, that broker needs a spanking. You can't have a guy manage your money like that. And I told him what we should do. But you know what? They don't hold them accountable. I was going to send him back because he's back in Maryland. I was going to say, ask this guy to pull out his statements and ask if he's got his stick in the same pond that yours is in. And
not only that, Jimmy, he made about 80,000 while he stayed stagnant.
Absolutely.
He made 27 to 30,000 a year in commission, and the guy stayed still.
We must be like Paul Revere saying, taxes are coming, sequence of returns is coming, retirement's coming, because we're no longer worried about taking one bag of money and making it 2. We want to make one bag of money that we'll always keep and have a good income stream coming throughout retirement.
Well, and Joe, you're going to jump in here in a second, but one of the things, Jimmy, that I think people, they may have saw what happened today, but did anybody see what the idiots did yesterday? What they passed? Another huge spending bill.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I mean that ties into today too, but I don't think people understand. They just keep making money, Jim, and that's going to come back to bite everybody.
Let me interject this about that spending. I don't care if you're a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican. We all feed from the same trough, and that's our U.S. government, and it's our money we spend with our printing presses. And right now we got, like I said, 34 trillion in deficit. We've got 1 to 2 million for debt service. They just stated, and this is from an expert, Ed Slott, the nation's economy. I believe that man. He said taxes at the end of the Trump Tax and Job Act will have to go up to 63% federal tax to try to balance the budget.
And Jimmy, people say, oh, that'll never happen. Go back to when Ronald Reagan was an actor. It was 100% when he was an actor.
Yeah, that's why he only make one movie a year.
Exactly. So don't say it's not going to go to 60% because it is.
So we prepare our clients. Joe, I'm going to turn this over to you right now.
Oh, sure.
We got them all humped up for you, Joe. We got them all hyped up. Now, give it.
Well said, Jim. So, on my area of planning, when advisors bring their plan to me, I'm unbundling of their clients' money or prospects' money and trying to figure out the best option for them for maximizing their need and benefits. What we're finding in some of the patterns of the process is that we're basically doing those stress tests on the play money. What we call it the accumulation bucket. There's always an overabundance of accumulation on the scale of risk element. They have no idea where they stand as far as the risk. We ask them point blank, do you know your allocation? If you're 70-30, 60-40, and they don't, a lot of times they don't know, and so our objective is to do the stress test, and then we go into a little deeper in the process is finding out that if they wanted to leave behind some money to their estate, who are they leaving it for? Is it for the grandkids? Is it for the kids? And how they plan to do that, with all these things that what Jim is mentioning about the risk elements, and the volatility in the market, or even the taxation aspect of it. But not to get too weighted in that discussion with them. We're really trying to find out what's important to them. There's usually a number of folks that they want to carve out a percentage of that IRA. It could range anywhere from 250 to over $1 million, and they're earmarking it for the sake of wealth transfer. They want this to transfer down to the next generation, and so to do that, we're utilizing an approach that's called the beneficiary annuity approach. And what it does, Bill, is that you see when they start hitting that RMD distribution cycle, when it's at the 74 marker, or maybe it's going to be 75. They have to take it out. We know that. But then what folks don't realize is if they start getting creamed in the market, on the accumulation bucket, they, number one, need to have a safety net under that principle, but they need to have consistent returns, and that being said, what's the ideal situation? Well, there really isn't, but under the circumstances of utilizing the beneficiary annuity that is objectively designed to guarantee a set interest rate no matter what happens in the market. The market goes down, the market goes sideways, all around, it always does. You're still earning 7%. So if the indexes are not performing, and that's always been a factor, when it comes to fixed index annuities, that the factor is you're hoping that you're going to get a decent renewal and you don't have to say sorry to your clients. So in this case, long story short, the rider benefit that we utilize is what's called the beneficiary rider, and it earns the policyholder 7% guaranteed, regardless of what's taking place in the market, and it accumulates over a course of 15 years. So when we're working with folks at 70, they're gonna end up in their life expectancy age. But if they go further, it still gets also not only the 7% guarantee, but they also get the indexing crediting on top of the 7%, which brings me to the next slide here. I wish I could blow this up, but I'm going to this column right here, and this just shows withdrawals. And then the age is 73, 74. So this is just coming out,
Joe,
and bringing the numbers.
That column, I couldn't see it.
Yeah, it can't be enlarged because it'll shut down. But what I'm getting at on these columns here, when you start taking distribution, you better hope that you can stay consistent in your growth. And so we look on these columns here. This is where I'm pointing at here. The crediting on this. I mean, you look at the crediting. You see that there's double-digit earners in some years.
I see. I
So
see
basically,
the definite on the last column to your right. That's the important
that we're
one.
going to get to that, Jim. We're going to
Okay.
get to that. Yes.
Jim, wait your turn.
Yes,
Wow.
sir. He's always the eager beaver. So moving forward, moving forward. Now you can see the money's coming out of it, and you see that the index is it's earning 7% plus index credits. It's putting money right back into your bucket. Okay, so take that sequence of returns risk and take that off the table. Okay, when you're utilizing this type of strategy, you don't have the sequence of returns risk. We're eliminating that with guarantees, not speculation. We're not saying, oh, an index based upon the 20-year back testing, you're not going to have the risk element. Well, we took it out entirely because the 7% growth factor is guaranteed. Now we'll slide across over here, and we look at
is that compounded, or is that going to be simple interest?
It's simple interest. It's simple interest, but
Still
you know
good,
that.
still good rate, but I'm just
Well, it's simple, Bill, and but you get the compounding effect from the index, and the index that we're utilizing is one of the most consistent indexes that is versatile enough to shift. When the volatility hits, and then jump on the peak in the index and come out victorious to credit a respectable average of return. And our averages on this index is hitting over 7, and that's been long-term. This index isn't, you look at the indexes today, and there's so many great indexes, and you get excited about like the back testing on it, and you're like, gosh, how long has that index been around? And you look at it and you're like, oh, it's only been around for 1 to 3 years,
So are you allowed to tell our group
I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Are you allowed to mention who that index is with?
Yes, sir. And that particular index that we're using is through Franklin Templeton Index.
Yeah.
And they definitely
sidebar on that. I knew it was, so I was setting you up to let
no problem.
Pat on back. When I was a brand new stockbroker and going back to 1982, and they set me down on the desk, and I had to bring in new clients as a stockbroker. I made more calls, opened up more accounts with the Franklin Templeton funds than anybody there. This is a tremendous company. I did so much business that they flew me back to Bahamas and let me go to where Franklin Templeton worked, and they took me to a special party where Blackbeard the pirate actually lived there, and it was a great trip. But I've used, now let's go 82 to that is 18 years, 30. I've used this over 40 years. I've used these people. I wouldn't go back and keep using them if I didn't know they had earned their stripes.
Well, and they've got a good track record to back it too. But Joe, let me ask you another question. So the 7% is very similar then to an income rider, yes?
It is. It has its position for as if it was an income rider, but we're not using this for income, Bill.
No. I get it, but I'm talking for the again. I'm the basic guy. I'm the guy.
I understand.
Where people can understand, keep it simple, stupid. But
right,
the same concept, but it's going to act a little different. Yes.
Well, yes, and where it's acting different is in the area of death benefit planning. They decided, somewhere that what's really important to them is to take off a certain amount of assets from that IRA. In this case, I used $1 million example. We take that off the table and we put it in this planning instrument, and it's going to give them those guarantees for the next 15 years and the death benefit. And if you look at this here, you can't really see it, unfortunately, but I'm telling the story. We dropped $1 million in this one. This also will accommodates all the RMDs every year. And then by the time they're age 85, I'm looking here that the account, even though they're taking 6-figure income out almost most of these years, it still grows the account to 2.9 million. And that goes for the death benefit, and the death benefit catches up with the account value, which is very impressive because of the indexing. That really is what puts it over the top.
Can I share a real world story? Just yesterday. So it wasn't a digital. It was a meet at my office, the client, and he had a variable company that's a highly respected A-rated variable. And they said, look, we'll give you your distributions all your life. And when you die, we'll guarantee to give you your premium back. And he said, there's no fixed annuity that can do that. And I said, I beg to differ. He said, well, how and what do they do? And I used this illustration because I knew Joe was going to use it today. I already had it. And if you go down there and say he died at what year did you say, Joe? 85?
Well, I was saying 85, yeah. With the index.
Go across, how much is his death benefit at 85?
Well, 85, it puts it at 2.9 million, as I explained earlier.
Okay. How would you like your million back, or would you like 2.9 million back for your legacy? And he had egg on his face. He couldn't say a word.
Well, and what's exciting about this is that it's beyond, well, this is with indexing too, but we can still put that guarantee, that benchmark earner at 7%. You know what I mean? And then the indexing that they get on top of that is just the icing on the cake. You know what I mean? So it's a win-win all around. And so rather than, like I was mentioning earlier, we were talking about the accumulation of wealth and when they're saving, and now they're getting to the point where, hey, I want to pull the plug with the employer, or I have this old 401k I haven't rolled and I'm in retirement. I retired last year. I got some other miscellaneous accounts out there. Well, this is a great way of saying, look, what have you done for your planning, for your estate planning, or, have you planned to leave some money behind to some of your beneficiaries? I mean, there's occasions where people are like, that doesn't matter to me. I want to use all the money. So, hey, I can't help that one. We'll go in another direction in what we do. It's just dependent on. Yeah. So, I mean, this is today, what we're showing here. It's just another tool to have, with what you're doing. And
before we go any further, you got a question that says, is the 2 million taxable and forced 10-year draw, or is that going to be, is that a different, it will be taxable. Because
absolutely. But this is for the folks that, they could do a Roth conversion, but sometimes there's people that just don't want to deal with tax. They don't want to deal with it.
The Roth conversion. Now, even though the 2 million is taxable, there's no 10 years. You got to get rid of it.
At the end of the 10 years, yeah, but then you take it tax-free and go somewhere else with it.
No. But I'm saying, let me back it up a little bit. If we already Roth it, right, and we put it in here and we get the growth of the 2 million, what I'm saying is, I get it. You take it out as taxable, but you no longer have to spend it in 10 years, right? Because you've already Roth it.
Correct.
No, you're right on that. But most of the time, Bill, what we're seeing, I mean, when people get an inheritance, especially, I mean, it's not always, like this. I mean, they want to lump sum. But then if the circumstances are they're working Americans and they're making a decent living and they don't want to have all that tax pour out right out of the first year, then we'll stretch it out. We can abide by the new 2.1 rules with the Secure Act and stretch it for over 10 years if they choose to. But most importantly, we're doing our job on the front end with designing the right wealth transfer strategy, because maybe there might be like a situation where they can't qualify for life insurance. You know what I mean? And this is a great way of offering, and it's not a life insurance policy. It's just kind of like it's a death benefit strategy. And death benefit riders have been around for many years, but now they're starting to come up again, in our planning process. So
now, do these plans have features in them as well for like terminal illness or
Absolutely. If we need to get out of the plan, there's options in there for terminal illness. You can cash out. Nursing home waivers, if you need the money, you can get out. But you don't want to raid this piggy bank. This is a piggy bank design that is mainly geared to the wealth transfer. Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
fully,
Circumstances changes all of our lives, yes. And so
sure.
it's just nice to know you couldn't do that with a 401k. You couldn't do it with a
No,
traditional IRA.
absolutely.
These give you the extra benefit. But let me go here, Joe. This as we go down in our time a little bit, I want people to know if you got to go, you got to go. We're opening up for questions and stuff. But I think this is even better than what we did last time, Joe. If they get the report, and again, if you want the report, this is in the report. Yes, Joe. So this is in the report. Say report, we'll get it to you. But here's what you're not getting. And again, I'm not an FMO. I'm not an IMO. I've told you guys I'm not trying to get you out of there. But if you're not getting this kind of training and you need our design team, Joe and Jim would be more than happy to help you. And they're not trying to move you away from anybody. But if you don't have this kind of training, you're not getting this kind of knowledge, then, and most of us are independent anyway. This might be a bucket that you want to bring over to Jim and Joe and let them help you with. Yes?
Absolutely. And
a sidebar on that is that one of my greatest new account openers is my stress test. Everybody knows that they stress test the banks. The truly wealthy people with portfolios of 25 million or more almost always get a stress test every year. Honest, hardworking Americans that have 200, 500, 700 their life for, if they're not doing a stress test, they're taking a lot of chances with their retirement. That Joe and I do these stress tests, and then we look at from peak to, and I'm talking a lot of mumbo jumbo, but I'll explain what it is: peak to trough rates, standard deviation, core inflation, all the list of things that can sing a danger sign on their equity. And is that in line with their risk parameters? That's where I uncover more assets that I can transfer over than ever. So if your current FMO isn't doing that, shame on them. I'm a big subscriber that we need to stress test these accounts.
Well, Jimmy, and this is what they pay me the big money for. The best way to say what you just said is a lot of people take care of their physical life, right? They go to the gym, they eat right, they do, but they don't get a fiscal checkup. And what you're saying is you need a fiscal checkup. Now that could be the 10 points that you just talked about. It could be whether or not you want to pass it on to your heirs, however you want to design it. Like Joe said earlier, maybe you want to get rid of the tax burden now, and then you want to, have the life burden, the life tax free at that point. One of the questions we have, Joe, is this like the 7702 in that when they, and I don't know, I guess the implication is if the beneficiary receives the death benefit, then it would be tax free. Yes.
No, well, this is in a form of an annuity. So
it's not a death benefit. It's going to be the IRA or whatever you put in there. Yes.
That's correct. I mean, it's
that's
basically
for qualified money.
Yeah.
Non-qualified.
Yeah. Well,
know what the income in respect to a decedent rule is, and that's nothing we can do about that right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so the whole objective is the guarantees, because when a person has to start taking RMDs, they need to be able to fill the cup back up. And that's what this does. It fills the cup back up, and objectively, it's designed to do the wealth transfer. Now, is it going to be taxable? Yes, it could be taxable. Can we do something about the tax on the back end? Absolutely. I mean, instead of taking a lump sum, then we stretch it out over 10 years. The reason for that is there might be some circumstances on the front end that they can't do life insurance because they have a health crisis or they have a health issue. They don't want to do a Roth conversion because there's just too much tax that they have to pay. You know what I mean? So this is just a simple approach to just talk about, how much would you like to leave behind and then have this accumulate for the next 15 years or longer for the sake of getting a certain amount of asset, inherited assets down to the next generation. This is a great way to do it.
But Joe, now one thing, hang on one second, Jimmy. One thing we could do, and right with what you just said, and I tell people all the time, just because maybe you're not in a good health situation doesn't mean you cannot still do some kind of wealth transfer, and you can use a different conduit. You can use a grandson, a daughter, a son, whatever.
Sure.
Policy. So the person that asked the 7702 question, what I would say to them is, if they don't need the money and you do want to wealth transfer it and you do want to build a 7702 plan, you can do that with the money that's coming off of it. Even if the person isn't healthy, you just have to find a conduit that is. Yes.
Correct.
And sometimes, Bill, we'll get like, hey, I don't want to buy life insurance. I got millions of dollars in life insurance. Don't get into that, So I'm not going to fight an uphill battle. I mean, hey, I could end up selling them life insurance when it makes sense, but this makes great sense for folks that really just want to keep it simple and put a guarantee on that principal, the ability to have the guarantee to grow their money every year, and then getting into the next generation, whoever that may be. It may be the grandkids, it may be the children. Either way you look at it, it's doing its job. It's doing its heavy lifting. We're going to get them there to secure their future for that occasion, no matter what. They don't have to think about index.
That would be like, what you're saying is, let's take care of this issue. That becomes a sidebar down the road. Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's exactly what you're wanting to do. Because I think sometimes when we do webinars and we have people and they have agents, they get all excited. And I always recommend, listen, if this is something you haven't seen, I highly recommend. I learned a long time ago, 31 years ago, when I started in the business, it's better to share the pie than try to eat it all and get none of it. Right. And so sometimes just to learn this, you might want to bring us a couple cases and say, listen, I need you guys to help me. And Jim, you guys are all in on that, right? And then say, listen, if you want to go out and try to do a couple of them and you just use us to bounce things off of, then we change the things and how we separate the pie. But I think a lot of agents get a little bit shell shocked, maybe would be the word, that they're afraid to say, listen, I need help. And listen, I've had guys in the business in just 2 years in the business and they need help. And then I've seen guys 30 years in the business, Jim, and they need help because sometimes these are new ideas. I guarantee you that the Roth conversion, it's only blowing up because a lot of people aren't doing it. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, they're not all doing it, and then and they're still fighting the same fight. Like, hey, you got all this money in the market, you should get out and buy an annuity. And we're like, okay, that's good and all. We did a good important part of our job here, but what do they really want? What does the client want? They want to be able to take some of the IRA assets off the table and then position that for the wealth transfer or the estate planning or the death benefit for the beneficiary annuity. And that's what they want. That's what their hot button is. If you're in there and you're trying to, lean out their portfolio, I'm not saying we don't do that. I mean, we will lean out the portfolio because in this process, what's important to them is to get that money guaranteed with no risk elements. We're trying to take out as much risk elements as possible. Is it going to be taxable? Yeah. But it's going to be guaranteed and taxable at a much higher dollar amount because the asset grew no matter what the problem, whatever the economy was. It didn't affect the value of this account.
Well, and Joe, I think what you guys are doing is a great service. And I was on the Money Lady show today with Michelle Graves. She's in North Carolina. She's in Philadelphia. She's in my hometown. So we did it at her studio this morning. And we were talking about a lot of this kind of stuff. And I would venture to say, I know she's watching tonight. I would venture to say she would love to have you on her show. And you guys, and if you have podcasts and you've had show, you guys be more than happy to come and do the show on there as well. Yes?
Absolutely.
And you can get this from Heather. We can, we're going to replay this all the next couple of days. If you ask for replay, Drew's real good at that. We'll be doing that. I'm going to let you guys tighten it up, Joe, and we'll finish up. Got a couple more minutes here. I'm looking for some more questions. Let's see what we got. A lot of people, great webinar tonight. Excellent information. I appreciate that. One of the things too, Heather, I don't know if they have the capability, but when you guys see these, make sure that you're sharing this with people that may not be in the group. Because we've got 7,500 agents, but I think 7,600 now, but we want to grow the group. We want to do, some stuff about that and get growing. So tell your friends, tell your other agents. If you have a group of agents, we want them to come out here as well. There's another question. It says, is the 7% annual roll up guaranteed for the entire surrender period? And does the benefit base instead of the account value, is that correct? How do index interest credits apply along with this? And if you can, explain more. Can you guys see that question, Joe?
Yeah, I can. I could answer that.
15
Jim,
years.
It's a 15-year accumulation. The chassis on the product is a 7. Well, they have three options. They have a 5, the 7, and the 10. I mean, most of the time we're going with the 10. If you look at the 7, you'll see that the 7 has the potential. It may have a higher potential for earnings, but I think long-term wise, we're still going to go with the 10. Now the roll up is going to go, it's like a side account, basically. You know, when you buy an income rider, it's like similar to that. But its objective isn't to create income off of this value system. It's basically designed for the death benefit purpose. Okay, and that death benefit, if the indexings perform as expected with the 7%, then that death benefit may end up matching the accumulation internally within the policy. You see, so either way you look at it, even if the indexes are not, you know, up to par in performance, you're still getting that 7%.
That's awesome. And Joe and Jim, let me do this for you. Joe, you're in Colorado. Jimmy, you're in California. Joe, we've been together for well over 25 years. We partnered and done seminars, and we've gone to Mexico together. You got to see me speak in Mexico, and I got to become an international speaker. You got to witness that. So if anybody doesn't believe me, Joe was there. I was at the Allianz meeting and got to speak there. So I get to say I speak international, Jimmy. I'm so excited about that. But what I wanted people to know, the reason why I tell them where you're at, let's say that you're in Eastern time, like me, and Heather, of course, is 5 hours, 6 hours behind us, so she's in Hawaii. But let's say that you're in an Eastern time, and you're working on something late in the evening. It's 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. One of the great things, probably not for you guys necessarily early in the morning, but I know in the afternoon, you guys are 2 and 3 o'clock when it's our day's over. So if you're having a struggle with a client, you can catch up with you two, and it's like in the middle of your day. Yes.
Yep.
That's right.
We put in full days. I started at 7 a.m. tonight, and now it's I don't even know what time it is. It's 4 o'clock. I'll probably work another 2 hours tonight. So I put
there you go. And I'm going to let Jimmy. I'm going to let you finish up with a couple things. Joe, you finish, and then I'll close it out.
Sure. Well, thank you guys for taking the time, being on the call, guys and gals, and having us on, Bill. Hey, money doesn't sleep. If you're out there and you're working on cases, you want to bounce an idea or two. You know, I'm very familiar with all the key products that's being offered in the market, in the FMO community and FIAs, and have plenty of different ways to measure out the earnings on these FIA products, and weeding out what products are really the real earners. You know, when it comes to selling these products, you get excited and you sell them, and then a year or two, you look at the renewal statements, and then you don't want to get an egg on your face with that. You know, you want to choose your indexes wisely, with not just trying to just take a guess at it, but there's software these days that they do the reviews on the indexing and then find out what the top earners are. That's how you really understand how these indexes are performing, not just run an illustration. All these carriers are all going to tell you that their illustrations are going to be doing great, based on their back testings. We have a way in how to identify which ones are really providing the highest earning potential. We have a software that we use called the Indexalyzer. You may want to jot that down, and you're welcome to go online and get a free trial from us, and you just let them know that Broker's Choice sent you to get
how do
the
they
download.
do that, Joe? Can you give them the coordinates on how to do that real quick? And Heather will put that on the bar there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to. I don't know if I can do that this moment. I don't.
No, we'll get it on later. Just get it. Or
no problem.
If you're putting on their hashtag report, we'll put that with the report, and then we can help them get that.
Okay,
And
we'll
that's
do that.
Exclusively, Joe. That's your exclusive stuff. Yes.
Well, other people use it, but we have some features in it that are exclusive, and our actuaries have did some custom designs for us, and we could get even deeper with this stuff. Where Jim is kind of mentioning about the options, and which carriers that we can are the best at options purchases, and that's what keeps you linked to the indexes. You know what I mean? And that's like most important, because then we know which indexes are going to perform the best, rather than just trying to.
That's a huge thing. That's another show.
Oh, absolutely.
So many agents just put down 50% of this, 50% of that, don't pay any attention to it at all. And then they wonder why their client's not having any growth. Right. And I get it. You're not allowed in some cases to tell them which way to go, but you can educate them, and just tell them to put 50% or leave it alone is a big mistake. Jimmy, finish up your part, and then we'll go. Joe, you okay?
Thank you, guys.
You
Hey,
good,
thanks
Joe?
for letting us be here. Let me stress how important it is. If you're working with a potential client and you're really trying to do a good job and earn their business, and you see that they have quite a bit in the equities market. Now, if you're not equity licensed, you don't want to act like you are, but you have access to a fiduciary. I've got a Series 6, Series 63, Series 7 registered rate, 8 branch manager, 24 principal, foreign currency principal, registered options principal, 30 commodities, 31 commodity branch manager, and 65 fiduciary. I am licensed, and I can do this blatantly with
Jimmy, you are the smartest guy in the room.
no. But you know what? Let's take them to task. Say, has your broker offered to do this for you? I wonder why. You don't have anything to protect yourself in the down market. You don't have any options accounts. You don't have any hedge fund markets. You don't have any stop losses. You don't have, pick them apart. Tell the truth. Prove it with math and science and economics, and let them know you're trying to take care of them in their retirement.
And Jimmy, Joe, we'll finish with this. I will promise you guys, we will have a webinar, and we will have it where you can bring your clients to the webinar. Joe, can we do it in about 30 days? You think we can put something together?
Absolutely. And
can you help us?
What I share, Bill, when it comes to that type of a webinar, or even if it was a seminar in person, is I have templates. Okay. And that just means various different case scenarios. And that, I'll share maybe between 3 to 4 case scenarios, and, and it makes it more real, and relevant to their situation.
Here's what I like to do, Joe. Here's what I like to do. And I'm going to give this to the audience. If you bring a client to the show, there's no charge. If you do not, I'm going to charge you $10. I'm not, you're going to have some skin in the game. You would be smart to bring a client on the webinar. Yes?
Absolutely.
Am I wrong, Jimmy?
No, absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to hold you guys to it. 30 days. Because I know, Joe, me and Rick are getting ready to do one on the whole life and IUL. That's coming up. A lot of people are wanting us to do more of those. We're going to be doing a lot more of those, but we're doing it to where you can bring your client as well. And so we can help them, help you, and everybody. That's probably the best networking that this whole thing's about is getting somebody like you, Jim and Joe, to help them. Why would you not bring a client and have us help them, and then let us help you close the deal, right? I mean, we're not telling you to bring a client and then you go out and try to do it yourself. That's just not a right thing to do. And my people on here aren't made that way. We try to weed out, Joe. And so we're hoping that if you come to the webinar and you bring a client and you let us know that there's a guest with you, I think that you'll be surprised at how many of you will get your clients to go where they need to. And Joe and them, I know you guys are busy already, but I venture to say that we could probably do some really good work for some people that really need a lot of help. Yes?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm going to have Heather put the outro on. Joe, thank you. Jimmy, thank you. And we will see you guys next week. Kelly Roach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next week, we welcome our guest, Kelly Roach, whom for the past 10 years has disrupted the coaching space, published best-selling books, won the Inc. 5000 award, and built a top-ranked podcast called The Kelly Roach Show, which you can find on Spotify or Apple Podcast, and it has over 1,000 episodes. Make sure you mark your calendar so you don't miss this exciting conversation.